Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for the introduction. As you mentioned, my name is Marlene De Koning, and I'm working within a great engineering team within Microsoft on enhancing and scaling a revolutionizing product. Before that, I always said I helped to connect talent with opportunity when I was at LinkedIn, and now I believe I'm empowering every person on the planet and every company on the planet to achieve more by helping them with this solution we call workplace intelligence. So what does make companies that are the most successful different from other companies, and what drives their success? A lot of times when companies look into that, they look at their operations or their financials, and they start to compare there. But actually, McKinsey started to do a research where they looked into a little bit different, and they organized over 5 million data points over a 10-year period of time in 2,000 large companies. And what they found is that actually the health of an organization means more to the outcome of an organization. So what that means is if people are driven by a purpose and work together simultaneously and they embrace the way that they work, they actually result in a higher profit margin for the company. And not just by a little, but actually you see a 3x in shareholder return, and you see almost a 2.5x on return on invested capital. So this means that it's proven that the way people work actually drives the success of a company. But what we do, we don't measure this. So a lot of companies start to rely more and more on knowledge workers, but we don't know what the people do every day and how they spend their time at work. Who are they meeting? What are they doing? How are they sharing their information? And we don't know what they're doing, and if what they're doing is very effective. But luckily, my team has found the way to measure this. And we do that by measuring the meeting quality of people, seeing who are you meeting? Are you invited to the right meetings? Because some people are invited to the wrong meetings, and that results in people starting to multitask and sending emails during those meetings, but they are also a disturbing factor for the others. Or are you having conflicting meetings? If you're reliant on a manager to make a decision by coming to your meeting, but they don't show up because they had 3 other meetings in their calendar and they decided 5 minutes before which one they would show up. It's a waste of time of all those people in those other meetings that manager didn't show up. Or who are you collaborating with? And how is your network expanding within your organization? Are you collaborating and connected to the right people in order to do your work efficiently? And luckily, we can measure this. And we call this workplace intelligence. So we measure passive behavioral data. So this is not something you have to do extra, or as a company where a lot of companies measure active data through surveys. This is actually every day-to-day interaction that people are doing when they're making use of Microsoft Exchange Online. Every signal they send into the cloud is measured. And we compute that data in order to bring organizations new insights on collaboration patterns. So we look on how departments collaborate with each other, or how much time people spend at their work. And then we set goals for those organizations. So we look into the correlations of the data, and we help organizations to measure their goals and to achieve their goals. And then we operationalize. So we build dashboards, or we help companies to really get the insights of how their teams are interacting and where they can improve to make their business decisions better. And then we try to help to transform their workplace. Because every business decision you make, a lot of times you rely on the work of people. So where can you save time, and how can you become more productive and efficient as a company, and how can this data help you? And we do that 3 ways. So the first way we do this is called what we call organizational agility. So think if you as a company go through a digital transformation or an agile transformation, or how you want to call this transformation, most of the companies want to change the way they do their work. And by changing this, sometimes companies only add on work to employees and they forget to take work out, which means that you're adding more stress and more work to those people without taking a step back. And sometimes people are working on projects that don't matter anymore for the top managers, but they still put their heart and soul into it and making it work without having a real impact on the organization. But nobody is measuring this, and then the work keeps on being done. So what we can do is measure what products are people working on, and is this driving the top 3 of your most important results for your organization? And we can also see if you're moving to a more agile organization, most companies want to reduce the time that managers spend in the same meetings as others and give more empowerment to people. So you want people to make more autonomous decisions. And you can measure this, but a lot of times companies say they move more, they want to become more agile, and they say they empower the people, but in the meantime, still the manager is copied into every email. They're attending the same meetings as they were before, and there's not a real change happening within the organizational transformation. And then the other thing that we look into is what we call customer focus or customer excellence, because a lot of times we do surveys or we measure customer satisfaction, but you can actually predict how your customer satisfaction will be based on the behavior of your sales employees. How is their network? How deep is it? How well connected are they within the customer, within different departments? But also, how well connected are they within your own company? Because actually, we did a research. Microsoft is our #1 customer of this product as well. And what we found is for our own sales organization in one of our business units is that actually it matters also how big and how depth your internal network is in order that differentiates the best salespeople from the average salespeople. And now we're nudging our people, like saying, hey, did you know within your geography and within your function, this is what the top salespeople do different than you. So they might have, I don't know, on average 15 contacts at their client, and you have 12. So we hope that it inspires other people to think that they might need to expand their network within their clients. And then the last thing that I want to go a little bit more in depth in is employee experience. Because how are employees experiencing their time at your organization? I just told you the story of McKinsey and why it's so important and that people are driving to your success. But actually, if employee experience is so important, how do we measure that? And how do we value that? Because billions are spent around the globe on employee experience. We spend it on learning and development. Actually, next to customer experience, this is becoming the driving growth for companies that they do their spend on. And they do it on wellness and on everything else. And within this number, which is double for the globe, is not even all the pool tables, all the free food, or all the other things that we're offering to create a better employee experience. But actually, even though we do all those things, we don't see the return that we're seeking to as a company based on the investments that we're doing. Because the programs are not delivering. And actually, 2 out of 10 executives report that excellence, that they receive excellence with their employee experience. And 16% of the workers are actually fully engaged. So this means that there's a huge gap between what companies want and what actually is being delivered. And the reason how you experience this as an employee, it's not only the annual engagement survey, which is only one moment where you feel happy, or maybe biannual that you do as a company. But actually, if you had a great customer meeting and then you come to back to the office and you're seeing your colleagues and you can tell them about it and you get your emails out of the way, you go home and you're done, you're fully engaged and you come home very happy. Where if you had a not so good customer meeting, there's nobody in the office you can talk about. You didn't have a one-on-one with your manager for the past, 2 months. Nobody knows and cares really what you're doing. And then you come home and you get 50 emails in the night. That kind of makes it a crappy experience. So you want to change that and you want to increase that because that's putting a lot of stress on employees. And ineffective employee experience has a huge impact on your return on investment as a company. Because ineffective employee experience actually results in low engagement and high stress levels. And low engagement and high stress levels returns in higher turnover and higher health cost. And in a lot of knowledge worker jobs, actually burnout is becoming an epidemic. And one of the reasons why people either leave the company or why they are leaving an industry. And then the other thing is they are innovating less and less productive because they're exhausted all the time. And if you're innovating less and you're less productive, you're less likely to wow your customers and to give your customers a great customer experience. And then if your customers are becoming less satisfied because you don't give them the wow factor anymore, that obviously returns into a lower return on profit. So this is what the most companies do. If you look at the top 3 of what companies are measuring, it's the onboarding interview. So how well did you enter the company and how is it going now? We measure the engagement survey, some companies annually or biannually. And then the last thing is we sometimes measure why people leave. But we don't measure anything in between. And the beauty is with the workplace intelligence, you can actually measure anything in between. So how much time did you spend with your manager? Or how much time did you meet the team? So for example, onboarding, the reason that most people leave a company within 6 months, or actually 28% of the people leave a company within the first 6 months, is because they had a not so good onboarding experience. And this means that they didn't meet their manager often enough, that their manager didn't answer their emails or the questions they had, or they didn't explain to them how they should submit vacation days. They didn't introduce them to enough people so you can build your network in order to do your job effectively. So all these things really matter. Who are you meeting? But also making sure you have focus time. Sometimes we're buried in all the meetings that we have and all the emails that we actually don't have time to get our work done. So you come home and then you think, well, now I can actually focus because now I'm done with all the meetings. And then you start doing your presentation, doing your coding, or whatever it is that really makes you great at your job. So we figured out the 3 things that are, and we're not the only ones who are talking about this, that are really giving employees a great experience. One is empowerment, the other one is development, and the other one is community. Because if you can empower your employees and give them the freedom and trust to do their work right, you hire smart people, so they will do their job right. And then if you can enhance them and develop their skills so they actually become more valuable to your company, but you measure the trainings you do with them, so actually all the training they get are bringing a value to them as an employee, but also to you as a company. And you build a community, so people actually get the right connections and build the right community around them to thrive in their jobs. Those are the 3 things that will make a great employee experience. So how do we do that and tie that back to our product, Workplace Analytics? So if we look about empowerment, we want to look at the ways how people work. So do you have time to focus on your work? We measured this amongst an engineering department within Microsoft itself, and we found that all their hours were scattered. So at some points they were doing meetings, then they were having a half-hour focus time, but it actually takes 19 to 22 minutes to get into a focus. So if you only have 30 minutes in between meetings, you can actually produce 8 minutes of real work before you go into the next. So what we measured this, and then they figured out that they would do no meeting Wednesdays. So that's an entire day that our engineers can spend on coding, and they're not being pulled into meetings. And also they will do all their meetings in the morning, because there's particular teams that they're more productive in the afternoon. So they will have all their meetings before lunch, and then after lunch they will have time to sit down and focus. And then work-life balance. As I just said, burnout is reaching epidemic proportions. So do you know how many hours your employees are actually working in the weekend? Or do you know the effect that the senior leadership of your company has on your employees? Another insight that we gained was that one of the senior leaderships, he was always emailing his team on a Saturday morning. He was spending time at the hockey game of his kids, and then he was sending out emails just to get it done, and then by lunch on Saturday he was done and he could enjoy his weekend. But actually what we measured is that he got the entire organization going, because everybody received an email of a senior leader on a Saturday morning, so they figured that they had to work the entire weekend. So by changing the little things in the behavior and making people aware that this is happening, you can change the balance within people's life. And also you can see how much they're traveling or how many hours they spend in meetings internationally. So you can really focus on their work-life balance. And the same goes for diversity and inclusion. We measure diversity by setting sometimes goals, but do we measure inclusion within the organization as well? When people are getting a promotion, do they also get the autonomy that goes with it and the empowerment? Are they invited to the right meetings? Are they having the same amount of exposures as other people have? Do they build the same amount of network? And do they have access to the senior leadership? So we can measure those things. And then if you look at development, we can measure one-on-ones that people have with their manager. So at one research we did, there was a company and only 12% of their people manager had had a one-on-one with their directs in the past 30 days. So that means that a lot of them didn't do a regular one-on-one. And and also on upscaling employees. So you want to make sure that you give the right knowledge. But what if you do a sales training and you don't see a change in behavior of the performance of your sales? Then you might not want to train your entire organization with that training. But what if you do? Then you might want to scale this. And also, if you think about managers, we put a lot of money as organizations in training our managers and making sure that our managers do their work great. But you want to know and measure the effectiveness. If you do coaching for managers, do they actually spend more time in coaching their employees? And then in community. So the onboarding I already told you, but also about workplace planning. If you're working in bigger buildings, a lot of people travel, or on bigger campuses, they travel from one building to another in order to go to their meetings. And actually a lot of time gets wasted by that travel time. So what we try to do is to measure where are people in the building, who are they collaborating with, and how can you make sure that the people who spend the most time together are actually encouraged to spend the most time together, but also in an effective way, so you're not losing too much time by people walking around all the time. So how does this work? What we do is we leverage the Microsoft Graph, so all the signals I just mentioned, and then we combine it with business context. So we combine it with either performance data, engagement data, or any other business data, and then we get the insights. And then we help you do a change program. So it's all within the Microsoft 365 system. You are in control of your data. So it's not something that we control. We don't access your data. All the data will stay within your own Microsoft Cloud environment, and we won't have access as Microsoft to your data. So you can do all this analysis yourself, and it's de-identified. So we don't do this as a personal level, like, hey, John is working 50 hours and Karen is working 30 hours a week. We look at it in an aggregate. So you know where to spend your headcount, or you know where parts of your business are in distress. So if you want to know more, you can always request custom insights from people you work with on a daily basis within Microsoft, or do a workshop with us where we go into what are your goals and how can we enable you to finding the right data that help you, empower you, finding the solutions for your goals. And if you're inspired and want to read more about how people analytics or how these tools work, you can always find more research on the Harvard Business Reviews. Thank you for your time.